Hello and welcome to the Warrens of my truck. Today's going to be a fun one, I think. We are here in my 1997 Ford F-Super Duty 7.3 PowerStroke Flatbed. And we are between said flatbed and the frame right over the fuel tank. And looking at this, I think I might be able to get, this is the fuel sending unit right here, and I think I might be able to get it out without dropping the tank, which would be neat. I want to get at this so that I can clean the in-tank fuel screens. I had a thing happen the other day that I wasn't a fan of. I was on the freeway going along at about 60 and I lost all power. Now, I didn't have the wherewithal to do a ton of troubleshooting in the heat of the moment, so I'm not sure exactly what was wrong, but functionally the pedal just didn't do anything. I was going 60 and I just was flooring it and losing speed. And I wish I had the wherewithal to toss it into neutral and see if I could rev the engine or not, to see if it was way down on power or completely without throttle response. But I've done some reading and it sounds like if the throttle position sensor goes out that you get a check engine light, and I didn't. So I'm thinking that it's plugged up fuel screens in the tank. That sounds like a pretty common problem on these trucks. I did change the fuel filter since that happened, and under normal circumstances I probably would just drive it, because I just drive to and from the quarry with this truck. For the most part, I would probably just do that short run for a while and see if the fuel filter, because the fuel filter was filthy, and so that could well have been my entire problem. But it just so happens I'm planning a longer trip with this truck. I need to go get something big and heavy about 60 miles away and bring it back. And I'm not excited about doing that with an untested solution to a pretty harrowing problem. So I'm going to go ahead and dive into this and see if I can't get this sender out, check those screens out, see if they're clogged, clean them either way, and get it put back together. Looking at this, this is different than the videos I've seen. Most of the PowerStroke fuel tank screen cleaning, whatever, most of the YouTube videos I've seen, there's a plastic ring here that you unthread to release the sender from the tank, and the fuel lines require a special tool to release a collet-y kind of thing inside there. I'm going to clean it up and get a better look at it, but this looks like it's just a cam lock kind of sheet metal cap, and these look like they're clip retained, which is great news. It means I don't have to go buy that tool and I can actually just do this right now without having to wait for a thing to arrive. But this should be pretty straightforward. I'm going to clean this up. I'm going to disconnect the fuel lines, and then there's a wiring loom that goes back to here to disconnect. I'll show you that better when I get to it. But yeah, let's dive in. Well, it's feeling like I might still need that special tool. Yeah, this thing must just be redundant. That's too bad. I was really hoping that was going to let me just do this job. Alright, back to it another day. Welcome back. So I did a little research regarding the special tool for releasing these quick disconnect fuel lines, and some very industrious individuals out there on the interwebs have managed to do this with a homemade tool. This is a chunk of a Sharpie cap cut to making a chunk of a Sharpie cap. So supposedly this does the same thing. And rather than ordering a tool, I mean, the tool's only like 10 bucks, but then I have to wait for it to get here or go get it, neither of which is something I want to do. So I'm going to try this, see if it works. Whew. Well, that thing is in there. I felt the tangs release, or not release, but I felt it slide past them. But they are still contacting the ridge, and that line won't come off. Need a thicker cap. Oh, golly. Okay, let's try this. I'm sure you can't see this. I sanded the end of the cap. It had like a little chamfer on it. And I'm worried, not worried, I hypothesize that was allowing the tangs to slip back into engagement. Hot damn. Your net was right. Take that, corporate America. You can't have my $10. All right. Actually, before I get ahead of myself here, I'm going to mark the forward fuel line with a little piece of masking tape. So if I forget which one was the blue tape one, you guys tell me forward, all right? Now let's see if we can feed two birds with one scone here.
Hey, sorry to interrupt. It's Future Mike here. I'm sitting here editing this video and, well, I was gonna say that I did a lousy job of explaining, but the truth is I simply didn't do any job of explaining what's actually going on inside this fitting here and why jamming a little sawed-off nub of a Sharpie cap into it helps. So here's a quick sketch of a cross-section of this style of quick disconnect fitting for fuel. So you can see the parts of the quick disconnect here, and the main takeaway are the little red tangs, or what I'm calling them. These are just little thin, flexible sheet metal barbs or teeth that engage on a ridge on the fuel line in order to retain it so that an O-ring can do the actual work of sealing the connection and your fuel can flow through the center. So the idea is that to make this connection, you simply push both lines together until the tangs snap over the ridge in the fuel line, at which point the fitting bottoms out and the O-ring makes the seal. And if you were to pull on this connection, it would not separate because the tangs act as barbs and engage with the ridge. So to separate this, the Sharpie cap does the same job as the special tool you can buy, and it's represented here in this black sleeve around the blue fuel line. You put that in place, and then you slide it into the annular space between the quick disconnect fitting and the fuel line, and then you push it past the tangs, which forces them back, and then with the tangs held back, you can withdraw the fuel line. At least that's the idea. Ostensibly, the tools that you can buy that do this job are sized just exactly so, and this works very well. A Sharpie cap, of course, was designed for a different purpose, but it is close enough that with some pushing and pulling and finagling and some four-letter words that you can eventually get it to work. So that's the idea. That's what's going on inside this fitting that you cannot see on camera, and that explains what I'm wrestling with and trying to feel inside this fitting as I try to get the fuel lines disconnected. So I'm going to hand it back over to Past Mike now. Hopefully you find his struggles entertaining.
All right, let's see if we can get you a good close-up view of this one. I strongly suspect that you're actually going to get a good close-up view of my knuckles. Let's try. That snaps on like that. Before I get that in, I want to get this worked loose. So you see there's about, I don't know, a millimeter or two of axial play in there. That's good. Work that lock lube in there. And then the trick is when it's in tension, if I was pulling on it, the tangs will be preloaded against the ridge. So I want it in compression. But I can use that play to help me weasel this cap in here. Try a wee persuader here. I hope you guys can see because I can't. Whew. I'm gonna take a breather. There's no way to take a coat off in here. Ta! Whew. All right. Not sure why that second one fought me so much more than the first one, but I did get it. All right, there is the electrical connector. I feel like this would be easier without this thing here. Let's see what we can manage. Feel one of those plastic Barbie things on the other side of the frame here. We can't persuade this to... Yeah, that's the ticket. Okay. Get this free of the frame where I can actually get a hand on it. See that? It's got a little clippy. Pretty standard fare. Of course, it's stiff as something something. Inappropriate. Okay, that wasn't too bad. This is what we have to deal with here. You can see it better than I can. How does that come apart? Anybody? All right, I'll try some stuff. All right, so I hypothesize this is just gonna come out lefty-loosey. I'm not really sure, so I'm going to be pretty gentle here. Oop, I'm moving the GoPro more than I'm moving anything else. Let's try... Holy crap, I completely covered this lens with silicone, didn't I? Oh, what a mess. Is that a little better? Alright, can you see anything from there? Not really. How about here? But this isn't too bad. Yeah, alright. Ooh, I think it is moving. Beautiful. Okay. Okay, so that was more or less what I expected. There's a ring here. It's got some little bent over tabs that clamp down on some angly bits. And you just tap it counterclockwise or anti-clockwise, depending on your general persuasion. All right, I'm gonna air blast this one more time. Maybe I'll protect the GoPro this time. Yeah, keep this thing clean. You don't want any of this nasty junk dropping into your fuel tank. And I think, yeah, we have a sending unit. Now there is a float in here. I don't know which way it goes, so being careful. What? That's not quite what I was expecting. That's not what I was expecting at all. All right. Looks like the float goes forward. Careful. Careful. There we go. Let's get this to a bench and see what we got to work with here. Well, I watched a lot of videos of people doing this, and none of them looked like this. All the 7.3 PowerStroke fuel sending units I saw on the YouTubes were straight down from the cap, and then the intake foot here attached to a white plastic cartridge that you could disassemble, and there were 2 screens in there that would clog. That was what I did all of this stuff to get at, because I was worried that those were clogged up. I mean, I guess the good news is that they're not, because they don't exist. That screen looks spotless. Does this come apart? So that's probably just a check valve. There's the return, there's the fuel gauge float, and no screens. I'm left with nothing to do. Guess I'll clean this thing, as long as I got it out. It's a little gunky. And then shove it back in. Well, I'm gonna go shove this back in the truck, and I don't know what I'm gonna call this video, since I'm not cleaning any screens. Sorry about the lighting, it done got dark on me. Try and get this in without touching anything filthy. All right. One electrical connection. Let's go ahead and clip that to the frame like we found it. And then these. So much work to unplug. I hate to plug them back in, but, you know, truck's not going to run if I don't. And that way's easy. Masking tape forward. Thanks for reminding me. Don't forget to remove Sharpie cap. Oof, these clips are pretty stiff. If you know about these trucks, let me know in the comments what's going on here. Is this a non-stock sending unit or tank? Is it been modified? Is it an old body style thing? Maybe every video I saw elsewhere was the newer setup, but everything I saw had a different retaining ring on the sending unit and a very different sending unit. Slightly different quick disconnects too, so I'm not exactly sure what's going on here, but I do know that clogged screens aren't my problem. Lines are hooked up, safety clips are on, wires are hooked up. like I was never here. I'm feeling a little underaccomplished since the screens I set out to clean weren't there, and ergo I couldn't clean them. But I do know that they're not clogged, so I guess I'm calling this a win.
Hey, it's Future Mike again with an update. Feeling of accomplishment or no, truck's been running great. Made it 60 miles and back with over 2 tons of brand new toy on board without a hitch. No pun intended. I'm pretty sure that changing the main filter is what actually solved the fuel delivery issue. But even if the sending unit was a wild goose chase, the problem is fixed, so I'm happy. Even though they were essentially fruitless, maybe my machinations will provide useful or entertaining to someone watching out there. Happy wrenching, YouTube!